Hello, welcome to the Man to Man podcast with me, Lloyd. In this podcast, we talk mental health, support, and breaking down barriers and stigmas attached to men's mental health. It's so important we normalise mental health conversations and create communities where we can talk openly about our mental health. So, let's get on with today's show. James, lovely to have you on. Welcome to the podcast. How are you doing?
Thanks, mate. It's good to see you.
First of all, congratulations on the first team managers role at the county.
It's been, I think someone said to me it's 5 months, however many games I don't know, but yeah, October the 19th. So I'm guessing that's like pushing that time. But it's been a all whirlwind and it's been a good time, a proud time. It's been a challenging time. It's been every sort of emotion you can kind of think of, and I'm very fortunate to be doing what I'm doing.
Well, you've had a brilliant start with it, up into fourth at the moment.
Yeah, at the moment we played a few games more than others, but we're doing well. Our performances have been good, so I've been really pleased with how the lads have taken to me and my staff and our ideas. So it's been a really good experience.
Has it been quite a big step up? Is it what you expected it to be, or was there a few surprises in the mix?
It's been, for me, at times seamless. And then at other times you think, wow, and in different things you've got to deal with. It's probably more, I'm really comfortable on the coaching side of it, and the managing side of it is probably the emotional side of it, that the things you have to remember while you're doing what you're doing. That's probably the most challenging bit for everybody in any walk of life, is that bit which links in well really with this podcast because of why we're on here and why we're talking. I feel really comfortable on the job side of it. It's obviously then you have those times where you've got to deal with certain things in different moments, and it's keeping your own emotions in check while dealing with other people's emotions. Well, 35 other people's emotions. You include players, staff, board, logistics, administration. So it's more than that. It's a thing where you have to be mindful all the time.
Yeah, and I should imagine you've had tough conversations already, and there'll be more to come in your career. And I suppose it's looking at who you're speaking to, the kind of personality they are, and having to take into consideration that part of it and that kind of man management, people skills, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think that's the bit where I'm enjoying the most at the minute is dealing with people, because it doesn't matter whether you play it or not, whether you coach or not, whatever business you're in, it's dealing with people, and it's leading people, and it's managing people, and it's helping people, and it's seeing people develop. And there's nothing more rewarding for me than seeing people achieve and develop. And that's when I see James Waite score on a weekend, and the goosebumps and the feelings you get from it, because I've known him since he was 12 and tried to help him along the way. And when you see those lads doing well, and I put in the likes of Kev Elson and that, you try to help them. You're going from a 43-year-old to a 16-year-old in one hit, and you include staff in that. Like my oldest staff member that I work with is Nigel, who's 66, who's a general manager, and you have to bear in mind everybody's generational differences and the way that people work, and you have to be mindful of that. And every day is a different day. But again, I'm lucky to be doing what I'm doing.
Being your first kind of managerial role and coming from a very long and large coaching background. How many years were you at Cardiff?
It was 8 altogether. I believe it was 2013. However many years is that, but yeah.
What would you say was the biggest difference kind of day to day going from the first team coaching role at Cardiff to now?
The biggest difference is I can get in at 7:30, and by 8 o'clock, when the first person arrives, everybody wants a bit of you. And I'm cool with that. I'm comfortable with that. And when you're first team coach, you just got to deal with the coaching side of it. And the players will come to you when they want to moan up. And they'll say, what about this? What about that? But it was like with us, when we were there with Glyn and Rog. It would, if you ever want, I'd probably go to Rog, really. And then it would get dealt with in a certain way, because that's the kind of hierarchical chain of command that you look at. And
I'd always go to Roger.
Yeah, but if you look at that, we'll come back to that later, I'm sure. But you look at that upbringing, if we had had that upbringing, I don't think I'd be where I'm at, and you probably don't think where you'll be at from your career side of it as well. So I look at that in that I have the utmost respect for those two, and how they helped me in my career. But the biggest difference is that everyone wants a bit of you, and my phone does not stop.
Oh, I should imagine it's getting pulled in so many different directions and things. So are your days longer? So has it had an impact on, like, you know, your family and yourself, and that the time aspect and time management aspect?
The traveling bit is a lot easier because it's like 6 minutes from my house to the training ground, and where it was before, it could be anything from 26 minutes to an hour because of traffic. That's a big change. I suppose it just doesn't stop. It doesn't stop. It's 24/7. It's time consuming. It's consuming everything. You don't switch off. I haven't learned to switch off yet. I've got to do that better. And I think people who say they don't take things home from work when you're in your infancy and you're in a certain element of your career, I think they're telling fibs, because you do take things. It's natural. It's normal. It's part of the process that you look at, but it's how you deal with things, and you try to stay in the moment in certain things. And I'm still learning how to do that.
How do you kind of stay mentally fresh? Because it must be absolutely draining, you know, physically and mentally. You know, like you said, you can't switch off.
You can't.
In the moment, and you must be always thinking, what's the next thing? What's the next thing? What's the next thing? So at the moment, how do you kind of deal with that mentally then, and how tiring it must be?
That's the hardest bit. That is the hardest bit. If I sat here and said, oh, it was all easy and it was sunshine and roses and it was this, that, and the other, then I'd be sat here lying. It has its challenges. It's kind of you have moments where it becomes draining, but then it's what are your mechanisms to deal with that? Mine are probably, it's become more now exercise, and it becomes every day, every game I go in the gym. I'll go in the gym in the morning. I have to do it. It's become kind of a ritual in that sense, where I'll go to the gym, I'll come home, shower, change, the girls get back from gymnastics, say goodbye to them, then I'll go to the coffee shop, get my coffee, and then go straight to the ground. That's become
your
like,
kind of little routine at the moment that works for you.
Yeah, and that works for me. And I suppose then it's kind of like tonight now. I know, I give the lads a couple of days off. We're in tomorrow. I know what training looks like. I've done that. I prepared that. But it's thinking of the three different teams I might have to pick over the next 6 days when we play those games. It's, if I make that change, what's the effect of X, Y, and Z? And ultimately, I'm sure we'll talk about at some point social media and people's opinions. I get one thing wrong, I get absolutely slaughtered. But that's part and parcel of it, and that's what I have to accept coming into it. I know that's the consequence of my action that I might perform, and I accept that. That's why I get paid. And ultimately, if the supporters pay for their shirts, pay for their kids to come, pay for their season tickets, they're entitled to that. We did it. When you support Liverpool, and I support the teams I supported, is that's what happens.
You're entitled.
No, but obviously Newport is my first love. Is that and everybody has teams that I support, but the thing is, for me, is that's the nature of the beast, and I have to accept that. If I don't accept that, I can't be a manager.
Would you say, because you're a local lad and, like you say, Newport's your first love, do you feel added pressure taking on this role?
No, I remember John Relish said something to me before. He said about managing a hometown club and how it would be difficult because he had to do it when we formed back in '89 when my dad played for him. I suppose the biggest thing is that you probably get extra support in it. I'll always put the extra pressure on myself. It becomes a natural thing of that because I want to succeed in that, and I want to be able to provide for my family to the best I possibly can. But the biggest challenge is for me is my own pressure, my own expectation, and my own thoughts that I put on myself and me and my team.
because there was quite a lot made of it initially, wasn't there? When you were first appointed, you know, the links that you've had previously with the club being in the academy, and obviously then taking on the coaching role within now as well, wasn't it? And your dad and things. So would you say that that was the only time it was really made anything of the connections and things when you first got appointed? Is it kind of, does it ever come up now, or, you know, do you ever speak about it now to others, or is it that's kind of done and dusted?
No, I still have it in my thoughts. I still have it in my thoughts, and I think of, in certain moments, even in games, I think of my grandfather and think about different things, and
Is that a motivation for you? Is that
yeah, for sure,
a good
for
thing
sure.
for you?
Yeah, it is, and you'd be lying to say that it wasn't. And listen, I'm lucky that I never got to meet my grandfather. That was one thing, I never met him. But you think of certain things at certain times, and you're quite fortunate with that. I'm lucky that my father's still alive, and my father still watches the games. My father goes to them, and I'm sure he's prayed like my mother is, and like my whole family and my wife are. But my kids and so on, and they're the ones that mean the most to me. But the motivation, the pressure comes from myself ultimately. That comes from me, and it always will, because I want to succeed, and rightly or wrongly, I want to prove people wrong. That's a motivation. That's a motivation for me.
Yeah, but I think that's, I suppose, natural. You know, in football management terms, you are young, and rightly or wrongly, you feel that maybe you've got something to prove in regards to that, and it being your first managerial role. But you know, people will always, like you said, you've got mass support. But in the background, there'll always be the doubters as well, isn't it? And that's part and parcel of the nature of the beast is football, isn't it? With the doubters, you do kind of want that, because they're the ones that you want to prove wrong.
I always find it. I remember. Have you seen The Last Dance? Michael Jordan told me things, but I've always had this in my head anyway, about you find something that you don't like about someone else. Not don't like. That's a wrong terminology. Or the wrong phrase. You find something that can give you the actual motivation. I look for that. I look that in everything, rightly or wrongly. I do. I look, oh, well, what about them? They'll think this of me, or they'll think that of my team, or they'll think that of my player, or they'll think this of my staff, or they'll think this of my club. And I use that. I have done since probably since the last 10 games. Really, I've seen it that way. But proving people wrong is important. It's just something that I've always got in my mindset, because you have that natural thing because you've not played professionally.
Coming on to like your coaching journey and things, there'll be a lot of listeners listening to the podcast, and they won't realize how young you actually were starting that coaching journey. And I didn't realize how young you were when you kind of stopped playing.
Well, I wasn't very good anyway, as you know. I was technically all right, but then it was probably the other stuff that I probably couldn't deal with at that time, and that's why I have this affinity to younger players. That's why I have this big affinity to younger players.
You know, I wasn't going to bring up. I just remember one time a penalty, and you barely reached the goal. The keeper just
I know that. I remember it. It was at the Clevelands. It was now that's a school. That is called Glanus. Now, as you know,
okay.
Right? It barely reached. It barely.
I couldn't think who you were playing
against Stickle, but I would have done it. Yeah, I had to run it in a red running track around it. I can't remember who it was, but last time I met him. But let's face it, I always felt technically I had a decent upbringing and where I was at. But it's probably more, let's face back on it, for me at that age, it was the mental element of it, without a shadow of a doubt. And one of the biggest factors is my mum and dad had split up during that time.
Okay. Yeah.
During the period, and I was a little bit younger, and that had an effect on me for sure. It has an effect on anybody that happens. And
so would you say you lost interest in playing then?
No, confidence.
Okay. Would you say that was the biggest driver to make that transition then, from playing, and was it, I'm going to finish playing and I know I want to go into coaching, or was that just something that you thought, I'll have a little look at? Or
sounds like this may seem like really bizarre and cliche, but because my grandfather did it, and I never met him, I always thought, well, can I do that? Can I do that? And you read articles, you read things, you read the books he was involved in, you read the people that he worked with and people he helped. I'm lucky that my grandmother's still alive. She's 88. But I always think that's a big motivation for me. Is being able to kind of follow in those footsteps. But I've always my idea is that I knew I wasn't never going to be good enough as a player. Technically I was all right. I could cope. But the biggest thing was for me was I wanted to have a career in a game that I love, but also being at the highest level possible. And I always thought, well, would that be a physio? Would that be a sports scientist? Would that be a coach? Would that be assistant manager? Would it be a manager?
So that was always in your mind?
Always. Probably from when I was about really hit, when I was like 15, 16. I did an article once with the Wales Online when I was at Cardiff. I remember being like 12, I would have been younger than that because we had moved from there. Like 9, 10 years of age, buying football kits, right, from a raffle sale in Clean, right? They were green and white tops, and they were men's tops. I bought them in a jumble sale. I remember putting them in a bag, to buying them, and playing in the street in the lanes, right? And some lads will remember this. Like there'll be lads called I'm trying to think, like Francesco Scapato, Salvatore Scapato, David Woods, people like that who were from that area. We play in the streets, and we play 10v10 in the lane, which was probably the size about like a 40 by 30. I remember organising things like that, and that was it for me. And I always watched films around coaching and read books and stuff like that. And I feel like strongly and passionate about developing people, and it started from them really. I always knew I wanted to do it. Always knew.
Obviously, where you are now, you've got to have a certain amount of kind of confidence and self-belief. Would you say you were more confident in what you do now than what you were as a player?
100%.
And going through the system as a player?
100%. Well, I just think that's a life experience, and through the context of where you're at that moment in time. I was probably going through a challenging time then as a kid because of what happened with and I don't begrudge them at all for it, because I would not be doing what I'm doing today if I don't think I'd be doing what I'm doing today if that hadn't happened. That sounds ridiculous in many ways, but I genuinely believe that because it made me stronger. It made me tougher in many ways, in the resilience aspect of life, and I had to deal with that. We had to deal with that.
And you may not have ever taken that step.
No.
Into the coaching aspect, and you could still be playing. And
I don't know where I'll be playing. It'd probably be 5-a-side in a golf centre or something like that right now, and having 5 beers afterwards.
I can't even manage at the moment, I don't think. So, talk to us then about that kind of journey from deciding, right, I'm not going to play anymore. I want to pursue the coaching avenue. So, talk us through that journey up until this point.
Yeah, I generally believe this, and I know that we spoke about it earlier, but I wouldn't be sat here if it wasn't for Glyn Jones. You're talking about Newport and how he brought me in, really, because Norman Parsall left the academy at Newport, and then Roger was there with Glyn, and then I started my journey from there. Really, when I was 20, I was working before that in sport development in Newport. And another block. It's 2 guys really, and it would be Glyn Jones and Greg Woods, 100%. If I hadn't, for me starting out, if it wasn't for them, then I wouldn't be sat here. I don't think talking about Newport County, or be on a different journey.
So you were quite big mentors for you in the early days.
Yeah, and people who started my career, if you like, and I'll be forever in their debt for that because of what they did for me. And I don't speak as much as what I probably did, and things move on and change. But if it wasn't for those 2, then for sure, then I wouldn't be. I don't think I'd be Newport manager right now. I don't think I've had the journey that I had. I've learned, Lloyd, over the years that no one cares how much you know until they know how much you care.
Moving on from those early days, is it right to say that you were one of the youngest people ever to gain your UEFA Pro license?
I think so at that time. 29?
29,
I got it, yeah. I look about 59 now.
Wow.
When I look at, I never thought, right, when we were together, I never thought I would be the one with no hair
No.
and the better beard.
No.
And
Wow.
you got the
It's
better
lucky.
hair. I got no beard and the bald beard. Sorry.
Oh, wow. Mine just laziness, but
Brilliant.
and I'm glad I'm tall. It hides the top. So, yeah, you got your UEFA Pro license, and and I found this quote: Ocean Roberts,
Yeah.
one of the brightest young coaches coming through. Did he say that?
Yeah.
And is it really
Yeah.
about you?
What else would it be about?
Who knows that? So is that did he really say that?
Yeah.
Not a surprise, but like that's quite a statement.
Yeah, he texted me today actually about something, but he's another one for me who was a great mentor. Then you talk about different mentors at different times. He was one for me as well. Him and Dick Bates, then Paul Trollope, really in all that aspect. And again,
So-
they helped me along my journey, and that's why I love helping people, because people help me to get me to where I am, and I want to help other people to get to where they want to get to.
And that's great, to be fair. Doing your pro license so early, well, not early, but young, and having people like Ocean Roberts saying those things about you. Coming back to the pressure aspect, as you're going through, and you said about not playing professionally, and I know on the pro license and things, you got all the ex-pros coming back and doing it. Did you ever have that feeling of extra pressure, or the imposter syndrome aspect of it, because you're in such esteemed company? Did you ever feel like, oh, hang on a minute, should I be here doing this? Am I ready for this? Or was you always kind of backing yourself along the way?
Yeah, I never felt as an imposter. I probably felt that I had to try and produce as best as I could in a certain situation. So I had to prove my worth and prove what I could do. And I think that took over time. I was lucky that when I did my pro license, I was on there with some good people who kind of looked after me and cared for me. The likes of Eddie Vivash and David Hughes and people like that were brilliant for me. Lenny Lawrence was mentoring it at that time. But I suppose the biggest thing for me, I had a natural pressure that I put on myself. But there is, because I was the only one who hadn't played in that room. In that room, you had like Marcel Desailly, Jens Lehmann, you had Dean Olsworth, you had Robert Page, you had even AD, you had Dave Sticks, who all played. Gary Brabbins, I think, who else? They haven't played. So you're there and you sat there and you're thinking, what are you thinking? What are they thinking of me? Yeah, probably. But then I didn't sometimes, because I thought, well, I'll just deliver and do whatever I could do.
Yeah.
That was what I did.
I suppose it's quite easy to get into a situation like that, and in the situation you're in now, is to overthink.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
On the first episode, when I spoke to my mates, we were saying about how damaging overthinking can be, and thinking about worst case scenarios, and quite often there's a very unlikely kind of percentage of that actually happening.
Yeah. I listen, for the last 10 years I've been a sports psychologist. For 10 years I've been doing it. A fellow called Keith Power, and I still work with him now. He works with me quite often now.
So does he look into that aspect of things? And obviously there's a lot more to it.
Yeah. That is probably one of the biggest supports that I've got, is Keith. And I have no problem with saying that. I just think it's part of performance.
Yeah,
it's part of performance. I want to be high performing. I have 5 set values, which are honesty, humility, excellence, family, and love. They're my 5 values. And to be excellent, you have to be high performing. So I use a psychologist. I use Keith. I don't call myself. I see him as a performance coach. So how does he get the maximum out of you? But he constantly says to me, "You tell your own story."
That comes back to looking after your mental health and maintaining our mental health, because if you want to, coming back to that excellence, you've got to be
Mm.
in the right frame of mind, be right physically, mentally, and you've got to be at the optimum level. And if you don't look after yourself and your mental health,
Yeah.
you are never going to reach that standard you set yourself.
I agree. But there's just this thing for me. I don't know what it's like for you when you're teaching, but when I go in front of people or I'm on the grass, I forget about everything else. Everything becomes redundant to me. I don't know what it is. It's just I start coaching, which is my biggest passion. I forget about everything. I'm in that moment of coaching. In games, not so much. In games, because I said to you, I think of different things. Like I said to you about, because you're not in control, and if that makes sense.
No.
You're not in at the game. You're not at the coaching. It's like when you were teaching.
Yeah.
You're in that moment, and you control it. And I kind of think
there's too many uncontrollables in the game.
yeah, and you can't do it. You can't really do much, and you have to let the players get on with it because that's why you work all week to where you work to. But for me, it's like coaching, and when I'm on the grass and I'm working, and when I'm in meetings and delivering presentations and things like that, and I don't think of anything else. I don't know if that's the same for you when you're teaching. I don't know. Or is it depending on what you're teaching?
Yeah, well, yeah, it depends who's in front of me. But you saying about coaching being your passion, I think there's so many people who escape things on a weekend, Saturday grassroots football, they turn up, and it's a big release for them. They can forget about work and what's gone in a week. It's their time that they can, escape everything, and you can go down through the tiers and the levels, and there's so many who say that. So, football at any level can be an escape. I don't know how much for you on a Saturday.
No, it is. It is. I just keep saying to myself what Keith says to me, and I say it to my players, and I've said it the last 3 games really. It's about staying in the moment. Stay in the moment. All I keep thinking about is here and now, and whether that's that.
And to be present.
Yeah, you have to be present, and that's one thing I have got to improve with probably like my family life. Is that sometimes you think about work too much, or you think about other things.
Yeah, definitely.
I don't stay in the moment with my kids enough, but that's me learning still. But at least I have in my own head, no Lloyd. I think at least I got self-awareness to go. Oh, I need to be aware of that. And I have no problem saying that.
Absolutely.
I have no problem saying that because that's me.
But that hopefully that will come in time, and like you said, with the switching off aspect, when you develop more of a routine and strategies to help you do that, then the family's going to come into it, and they'll be a distraction as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Away from what you're
and
doing.
that's part and parcel of kind of just life in general, and it's not just in football. That's in any walk of life. I could be a lawyer of a massive firm, and I could be taking, and it's dealing with things in a different way, and that's everybody has different pressures in their jobs. It's just some are more in the limelight than others. Yeah.
We happened to discuss this on the last episode and saying, how do you switch off? How does your work affect your family and things? Because whatever your job is, whatever you do, there's a certain degree of pressure, of expectation, and everyone has to manage that, isn't it? So whatever level, whatever job you're doing, if you were taking it home with you, it is difficult then.
Like Joe says to me, just go out, go to the gym, go for a walk, go and do something, or go and have 5 minutes yourself. Or I'm lucky I've got that support network. But it's you got 2 boys, I got 2 girls, and it's kind of it's that in itself has its own challenges. And you think when they act certain ways at certain points, is that because of you and your behaviour? I think that all the time. I think that all the time.
Definitely.
And that's something I've got to get better at. I know that though. I know that.
It sounds like you've got a very good support network around you. You mentioned quite a few people through your journey, or you may still be in contact with, and who you're currently with now, and your family and things like that. Do you find that having that strong support network has helped you if at any kind of low points, or if you're finding things a little bit tough or things haven't gone your way?
Yeah, yeah. I'm lucky. I haven't got a massive group of friends. I think just in time how things evolve, and you have friends, don't you? But who are acquaintances, if you like. But then you have your close knit circle who I can talk to, and I'm lucky. I've got Keith. I'm lucky. I've got my family. I've got my wife. I've got whoever it might be, and I've got a great assistant manager who understands me in how I work and how I operate, and staff. But from a personal point of view, there's sometimes where sometimes things in your own head, you have your own either self doubts, or you have you're overconfident, and you either need bringing up or you need bringing down. And I'm lucky
So
I've got people around me who do that.
do you find it easy to kind of talk and to open up and to kind of unload?
Yeah.
Or are you kind of more keep it to yourself and not to burden people?
I open up. I have to. I think my mother was like it. My father wasn't. I think that's where I've learned. And I lived with predominantly my mother for since I was 12, where my dad supported us massively. But what I'm saying is from a sense of that I lived in a house full of women. So I mean that most respectfully, is that the women talk more than men. They do. They do, right or wrong.
Absolutely.
They do. And I find that thing. So I was lucky that I had that. And you know my wife, she don't stop talking anyway. So
I'm going to word an edge as well.
So I just talk. I'm lucky that I talk. Some things I kind of just don't speak about, but it becomes obvious, so I talk. And I think the best thing in all of it, and everybody says it, is about talking and about opening up. And
Absolutely.
I have no problem with that. And I'm honest with my players as well, where if I'm wrong, I'll say I'm wrong. That's my fault. But I expect the same in return.
Do you try and promote it within the club and within your group of players as well, to kind of have that honesty, or if there is a problem, to come and speak to yourself or any of your staff and things like that?
Yeah, there'll be some players who feel more comfortable talking to other people than me, and there'll be some players who feel more comfortable talking to me than others. And I understand that. What this football club has, and I will say, it is a supporters-run club, but there is a massive culture of family, which is one of my values that I spoke about earlier. Family is really important. And my first meeting, I didn't do an all singing presentation because I didn't feel that was what I wanted to do. I didn't feel right in doing it. I just said, the most important thing to me is family. The most important thing to you is family. Family first. So whatever issues you have, whether it's you need to bring your son to work or your daughter to work because you've got no one to look after them, or we need to do something for you and day off, then that's the most important thing. And if you have issues, then you need to make sure they're okay. We do what we do ultimately is to provide for our families. That's what we do it. I do what I do to provide a roof over my head for my children and my family.
And what you said there's no mention of football whatsoever.
No,
it's got nothing to do with football. It's to do with life, isn't it?
Yeah, and I learned that probably most from Neil Warnock.
All right.
It was always family first.
Yeah.
It was always right, no matter what, it's family, and we have to provide them. We have to provide them. That's why we do what we do.
Yeah.
There's certain moments in your life and careers that make you act in a certain way. So he had his wife Sharon had cancer, and they came through that, and I think that became him more aware of the importance of family, and on that side of it, he was excellent. And I'll also say, working for Vincent and Ken at Cardiff, their values of a family were vital. How they were with my family was tremendous.
Yeah,
were brilliant. And
you don't
I was
you don't
lucky
hear
that
that, do you? You don't hear about that side of things, and the people side. You just
they're amazing
involved
people.
in a football club, you're in a spotlight.
They're amazing people. The Vincent, Ken, I put Mehmet in that, I put Steve Bawley in that. They were amazing, and that helps you set your values along the way for what you want to be. And I look at my chairman here, Gavin, and it is family first. It is a real family orientated football club, and And that is, I didn't realize how good it was until I got you.
Yeah.
I didn't realize how good it was until I got you. And I think that's one of our cultural values that we try to live by. And we have the hashtag one club, one county. And one of my promises to the board when I got you is that I'll live that.
Yeah.
And I want to live that. I want my kids to come to the games and love coming to the games. I want my mates' kids to come to the games. I want everybody to enjoy it and love it when they come and find it exciting and that's what I want. That's my aim.
Better keep winning then, I don't know.
yeah. But it's I know what it's like for the city. If
oh, it's massive, isn't it? It's huge.
We had 6,300 there, I think, on Saturday, right? 5,200 were our own fans.
Wow. Yeah. So how?
And I don't think that's just because of football.
No,
I think it's a whole cultural thing at the minute.
It could be a number of reasons behind it. Obviously, having a team who's been successful, or they can enjoy come to the games and the way they're playing and the results are coming and things like that. Obviously, yourself is probably playing a big part of that. That they can relate to you and they can get on board with you, your story, and how you're doing. But like you said, if it's that ethos of family and feel good and the community, they are part of it, and they must come knowing this is why I'm coming. I want to be part of this and I want to help this club grow.
But best example for me is, and no one will see this today, and is that we did a collaboration with the Dragons, donations to the Ukraine with the current situation they're in. So there was so much being donated from the area to Rodney Parade. So bearing in mind, my chairman's a volunteer. My chairman does not get paid, doesn't even get expenses, doesn't get anything, right? And it is like a full-time job for him, how he does it. We're there today, packing, putting things away. We spend 4 or 5 hours with the youth team, with a couple of the first team lads, with the Dragons first team. And people don't see all that.
No.
And we don't, whether we should publicize it or not, I don't know. And it's whether it's out or not, I don't know. But the whole thing about helping others and trying to support others is really important to us. And it's really important value to me. And it's a great football club for me that supports its local community, but also goes further afield to what we're trying to do. And it was, mind you, it was tough work today because I had about, I'm not kidding you, I think there was over 1,500 bags of nappies, right? Trying to sort them in sizes. You know what it's like when you got heroes, 1s, 2s, 3s, 4s, 5s, 6s in boxes. And I could send you a picture. I think there was over like 1,500, 2,000 packs of nappies. And that's not including all the food and the clothes and all that you have to do. But you know, it goes and benefits somebody. For the sake of 4 hours of my time today, it goes and benefits somebody else.
It goes above and beyond football, doesn't it?
Yeah, and people don't see that.
It transcends that.
People don't see it. And that's one of our values. It's my value, but it's also the football club's value.
Coming back to what you said about promoting and whether you should or shouldn't promote it. And I think with anything, social media, that's the dilemma, isn't it? Is, do I want to be on here? Do I want to be posting that? What's the reaction going to be? Because you could post them with the best intentions in the world, and you're still going to have a heck of a lot of negativity from certain people or trolls. And how do you kind of go about the social media aspect for you and the players? Because I know you're on one social media app, I'll say.
Yeah, I'm on Instagram. Yeah,
I wasn't gonna, just in case people go looking.
Yeah, but I made it private when I got the job.
So you're on Instagram, but how does it affect kind of the players that you're working with? Have you got kind of policies in place? Is there expectations set on the players? Because we saw throughout the Euros and how vile it can be. It can be a horrible place, and it can do a lot of damage mentally to people. Although it's got the positive aspects to it as well. So how do you manage that as a staff and as a club? Because it could be very detrimental to the people you're working with.
You obviously got policies and processes in place to try and put certain restrictions on elements of the media, which you have to do. You have to have certain policies. But with regards to posting and things like that, I think that's part of modern day society and what we have to accept and what it is and how it operates. I rarely post. It might be a few things of the kids and just something fun. It's one of those things. It sounds like a stupid thing to say, it might be, but it's a necessity, a necessary evil.
Yeah,
it's just modern day. It's like from our the millennial generation to what it is now. It's just part and parcel of that generation. I'm not on Facebook, Twitter, and all that.
Is that a conscious decision from you?
Yeah, I've never have been on Facebook. It's just Twitter. I was, and then I always felt Twitter. You kind of got that more. I don't know what it was. It's just
you're more accessible.
Their opinion.
And I suppose in the position you're in now, you are kind of there to be shot at in some respect.
Yeah, you are. You are.
Rightly or wrongly, you're coming back to supporters and opinions and things.
Yeah.
What social media does is open that up to absolutely everybody, whether they know you or not, whether they know what you're doing or not, and it becomes very personal, doesn't it?
It does, and that's the thing. And I'm lucky that my kids are only 3 and 5. Because I would not want them to see when I'm lucky, and touch wood, it continues this way, is that we've been relatively successful so far. It's when it doesn't. It's when it doesn't become successful or something happens, and then I'm lucky my kids don't. That's my only bit. Listen, it's different for Joe, because my family, because they're older. But it has an impact on them. I'm sure. I'm sure my mother worries about what people say. My friends will worry what people say. And I don't know really what impact it has on them. I don't know, but my natural thought is my kids.
Yeah,
is what they see.
Absolutely. You've seen so many kind of careers and things, how social media and how aggressive it can be and how much of an impact it can have. At the moment, it hasn't kind of come to anything and affected anyone, but how do you think you go about dealing with that as a person, as a family? Because parents are always going to worry. We know that, and you've already mentioned kind of your mum and dad and things. Would you ever kind of talk about it, broach a subject, or kind of would you just go, oh, just ignore it? How would it affect you, do you think?
I don't know yet. I don't know. I think that I'd be resilient enough to deal with it, because I know it's part of my job. It's part of what I'm paid to do.
Yeah.
Whether that's right or wrong, that's something that I have to try and get on with.
Does that come back to mindset then?
Yeah. It's mindset. I know I'm there to be shot at. I have to deal with it. I have to get on with it. It's just part and parcel of my journey. But within that, I know I have a support network to help me, so I can talk about it. So I'm not just saying, I get on with it.
That's massive, isn't it? That is huge.
Yeah, because I can't just turn and say, I just block that out because I'm resilient. Well, no, I'm resilient because I have a network that I can talk to.
Yeah,
who help me deal with it in certain ways.
Absolutely.
I think that's the thing.
In
all of this is about talking.
So, James, just to finish off, we've got 3 quick questions for you to answer. The first one: if you could have a billboard with anything on it, what would it be?
Stay in the moment and love the moment. That would probably be it. Yeah.
Oh, I like that.
I stopped by staying in the moment, and when I think that's simple.
Being present.
Being present.
Okay.
Being present. I think that's important. Yeah. Stay in the moment, love the moment. Because if you don't love what you do, how can you be good at what you do?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think being present,
or the best version of yourself, if you like.
Yeah, and being present and in the moment, making you more self-aware, it is going to come under that mental health bracket again of knowing where you're at in that moment and checking in with yourself and know what you need to go forward as well. So yeah, I like that. I might nick that off you. Name 3 things you try to do on a daily basis to maintain your mental health. And I think you've already kind of touched upon this earlier on.
Yeah. Talking. Probably 2 things well, 3. If in an ideal world it's 3. Probably 2 I do really well. 2 I do relatively well. The third one I don't is exercise, being open and honest and talking, and then trying to stay present. That's the one I'm trying to work on the most.
Yeah. And in all of that as well, it's the routines aspect.
Yes.
You've got, sounds like a solid routine.
It could be better. I'm nowhere near it yet.
But like I said, like everything's a work in progress, isn't it? And it's always moving goalposts. You know, routines are there, and things, you've got to be flexible within them as well, haven't you? The last one. What is one piece of advice you'd give someone who's struggling with their mental health right now?
Talk. Pick up the phone to somebody, whoever it might be, and I think that we all have struggles at certain points. It depends on what depth and heights the struggles are, and everybody has a different levels of it, if you like, whether that's the right phrase to use. But for me, it's about talking, and it's about opening up, and it's about being honest. And if one of my values are being honest, and if we all have certain moments, whether they're dark or light, in the aspect of the levels, is that we all have different moments that we have to deal with. My biggest one was always it will always be talking. I think we have to talk. I think talking it makes it easy. And I think there's always this culture, and I think it's going. I think it's nearly gone. If I'm being honest, I think it's nearly gone. About being men being able to talk. I think that culture's going, and I think it's going rapidly. If I'm being honest, I really do. And I just think it's getting better and better. And I think things like you're doing, which are amazing, I think help that process.
Cheers, man. So,
no, I generally mean that. I think it does. I don't think I know it does.
That's really good to hear. Very kind of you. Thank you. Would you say there's been a noticeable shift in the stigma side of things, and men being a little bit more open now? Have you seen a change of that in the football circles? Working in that day to day?
Definitely. Yeah. I've seen that over 8 years in first team environment. I've seen it since when we were kids.
It's always been about, it's always been the banter and laughing and joking, and never having those conversations.
Yeah, the banter and laughter
has never been perceived to be the thing to do, is it?
The banter and laughter will never go. What has come into it is the openness and honesty of it. I generally believe that, and I think that's down to the leadership and management and coaching and so on and so forth, and organizational shift, cultural shift.
Yeah, and do you think that's a generational thing as well?
Yes,
promoting the destigmatization of it. Blinking, that goes out to say.
Yeah, well done, mate.
It's doing it for the next generations as well, isn't it? Making it the norm for them, like you say. About our children growing up, and we had from a previous episode a very nice comment on social media about it's amazing to hear men talk openly about mental health, but it's even more important for her 3 boys to have that, and that kind of role model aspect, if you will, and for them to know that it's normal just to talk openly about it.
What's the problem with talking about feelings? Because I don't understand it. And it goes back to the if you got key core, and it goes back to why I generally believe in key core values for yourself, is that I have my key core values and what I believe in. And if I don't have them and believe in them, how can anybody else believe in me, if that makes sense. So one of them is honesty. And I get how certain situations dictate certain things. However, if I'm not honest with you on this and authentic and myself and talk about troubles and different things and why I'm like I am and so on and so forth, then how will people follow me and support me and want to do well and want to succeed? I just think it's down to being open and honest.
And I really appreciate you coming on to do that. It's been
no, mate, it's been a pleasure.
Mate. James, thank you ever so much for giving up your time. It's been absolutely brilliant catching up with you and talking to you about your career, mental health, social media side of things. All the very best for the future and for the rest of the season. You're doing a grand job so far. Long may continue.
Thanks, mate. I really appreciate it. And anytime. Thank you.
Don't forget to follow on Instagram at @the_man-to-man podcast. And if you want to be involved in the show in any way, just get in touch. See you on the next episode.